And good morning, everybody. Congratulations. You made it through the week. Another week of putting together awesome products, making sure that they're safe, that they taste absolutely amazing, and that people are going to have good holidays. And if nobody else says it, because a lot of times quality and what we do in food safety goes unnoticed, I notice it, Cori notices it, and we wanted to say thank you because we really appreciate how you keep us safe. So good job this week. So with that, we'll start our chat here this morning. And hello, my name is Bryan Armentrout, and I'm with the Food Leadership Group. And if you're new to the chat, welcome. Pull up a seat and join us for an hour. We're going to have a conversation around a food safety topic. And if you're new, every week I bring on a new awesome guest. And if you're tuning in for the first time, you're going to be really happy because I have Cori Muse with Muse Food Safety Solutions, the founder of that organization, joining us today. So how are you doing today, Cori?
I am doing well. Busy, but glad it's Friday.
That's right. What's that old saying? If you want something done, give it to a busy person, right? Because they know how to get shit done. So
that is true.
Yeah.
It's a curse, though.
As we were getting ready here on the chat here this morning for everybody, and you got to show everybody here in the audience, Cori, her earrings are awesome.
Oh,
I love the little crab earrings. Aren't those great?
Look,
look at this. Oh, are those like, it's like little mittens, huh?
Yeah, they've got like Christmas mittens on. So my business manager, Heather, if she's here, this was her final pick for which earrings to wear. So she made a good choice.
Absolutely perfect. So one of the things, guys, if you're new to the chat, that we love to do here at the beginning is we put in the chat where we are in the world. And I'm always amazed by this because I'm in Loveland, Colorado, where it's a chilly 28 F, so -2 or so C here today. Where are you at, Cori?
I am in Edinburgh, Texas, way down close to the border.
Is it nice and warm this morning, or how's your temperature outside?
It was like 64 when I took Hayden to school, and it'll be 77 by the time I leave the office, probably.
Wow. Yeah, that's we're not going to get to 77 here. That's for sure. And so as we start the chat here, and I put this in LinkedIn as well, just a picture of it because I'm so pleased by it. But back here in the background by my book, everybody can kind of see my new sign. I'm super proud of this, and so I actually got this on Amazon. So it's amazing what you can get on Amazon. So let's see. Yeah, so for some reason, Cori, your chat showed up in the private chat instead of
because I'm a ding-dong and I put it in the private chat.
Hi, Stephanie. Good to see you. So Stephanie's always a great guest as well. So she'll be coming up at a point here in the future as well. So stay tuned to have Stephanie on as well. So, you got your E. coli in the background too. I love it. I see a little guy sitting on the shelf. I've got, what have I got in the back? I've got my E. coli too. And so I've got my E. coli, I've got salmonella, and I think that's Bacillus cereus, which is good timing. Oh, there's the chat comment. Perfect. Good timing, because that's kind of what we wanted to talk here about today with the holidays and everything, and how these little guys can kind of get in the way of your plans. But before we get started, everybody, please join us for a drink of your favorite beverage. Nice. When I recently visited a friend down in Texas as well, and he's from Mexico, and he had a coffee shop down in Merida, and he still gets coffee from his suppliers down there. And he gave us a bag of his coffee. Amazing. And he said, dude, you're going to be really surprised when you brew this up, because you can taste strawberries in it. And he's right. You could, right? Now, I don't know if he was just influencing me by that or what. But in the U.S., right, we're so used now to the kind of the Starbucks standard for coffee, right? This burnt to hell, bitter coffee, and it was such a refreshing change. So,
filled with mycotoxins too. I think they tested a lot of the Starbucks coffee, and it's no bueno.
That's definitely bad. So with this, right, we're full bore into the holiday season and these type of things, and kind of what we wanted to talk here about is, kind of putting on our food safety cap and utilizing this outside of what we normally do in the manufacturing world. And really, Cori, I mean, as food safety professionals, the hat never really comes off, right? So when I'm in a restaurant and if I see the waiter, kind of do this and put his thumb inside the glass on the table and say, ew, what do you know? All right. I'll stop him and say, can I have a different glass with one without your thumb inside of it? And a lot of times too, that can kind of be risky, right? If you're a little bit too vocal around complaints relative to that, because, okay, are they doing something behind the scenes saying, okay, Mr. Smarty Pants, I'll get you, right? So you got to kind of be careful on that too. But we wanted to kind of give a good overview, right? Because in the past, it used to be, Cori, when you had family gatherings at a picnic or things like this, and Aunt Emily's potato salad and macaroni salad would be sitting out on the picnic table all frickin' afternoon, and bacteria would grow, and then all of a sudden everybody would get sick, and nobody was quite sure why. Well, now we kind of know why. So we want to kind of dive into different aspects of things to watch out here for in the holiday season. And that's why I'm so happy to have Cori on for this show, because she knows this stuff inside and out. This is really her expertise. So we're really glad to have her on for that. So kind of as a first topic, and this is an easy one, right? Because part of this is we're all busy, right? We're preparing for the. I went to Costco yesterday, right, and fought the crowds for that, and we're buying all these things to get ready for our holiday meals, Cori, and we're like, well, maybe I'll just order some pre-made meals for myself, or maybe the entire meal for the guests that I'm having in through these different services that offer these shipments. What are you seeing out there around that?
I mean, I think if you know me, you know my opinion on that, and it's not safe. I audit too, and I have these conversations with auditees just out of curiosity, and they'll say, oh yeah, I won't name names, but we use a meal kit service. It's great. And they really have no idea that it's not regulated. When I ask them, did you hear what happened with Daily Harvest and the 400 people and all the liver failure? I mean, that was serious. They have no idea what I'm talking about. And so nothing's changed in the meal kit world. They're still not regulated. They're still making people sick. If you go to social media and read the comments, it's still about subscriptions and not food safety. So my personal opinion is I would stay away.
I mean, the way I kind of think of this, Cori, is imagine you went to the grocery store and you bought a whole bunch of food. You bought some lettuce and some raw meat and maybe some raw seafood and all kinds of stuff. You throw it in a giant box, you go back home, and then you let it sit on your porch for 8 hours. Is that a good idea? Right. I mean, just imagine the bacterial growth, the cross-contamination, all of these type of issues. And people just expect this product to be good. And we're seeing all kinds of issues, right? I personally, I never buy those either.
And I find it's usually the at-risk people that want to do it because they either can't go shopping or there's any number of reasons, but they should also know the protein that are in those meal kits are not high quality protein. And they're usually things with the highest micro load, even if it's not pathogenic. I don't want to eat dead bugs, dead microbes. And so you think you're getting a deal, but are you getting a deal if the turkey was temperature abused and at the end of dinner you're going to have diarrhea? I'd rather not.
And as we've talked about here on the chat before too, they're utilizing delivery services that were not designed for food transport. UPS trucks and FedEx trucks are not designed for food. They're not temperature controlled. And imagine this giant hot box in southern Texas in the middle of the summer, essentially just cooking this stuff in there.
Yeah, not good.
No. Well, then the other side of it too is, so these companies have to compensate for this. And they're like, oh, geez, okay, we're going to be shipping to Cori in southern Texas all of this pre-made food in this insulated box, which kind of worked. So what we're going to do is jam a whole bunch of dry ice or blue ice or whatever in there with it. These boxes end up weighing 50 plus pounds. Now, if I'm a UPS driver, am I happy about that? No, right?
No.
I have a hard job lugging around these packages all day long at Christmas time. And now I've got this giant brick of a box that I've got to lug up to a porch. Am I going to gently place it? Nope. Right?
No, and they may not even know food is in it, depending on the company. And
Yeah.
listen, they don't care. They're in a toxic work environment. You know what I mean? They're used and abused, and I find that I see a lot of videos, if you watch TikTok or Instagram Reels, and you'll see employees saying, "This is what I do because so and so didn't tip." And I've
Yeah.
seen videos where they put it under their vent and they turn the heater on as high as it will go, and they
Oh,
drive with it, and they think it's hilarious because someone either didn't tip or they didn't tip enough. And that's always a fear I have when I do grocery delivery or any kind of delivery. With grocery delivery, I know the store that I'm ordering from, and I kind of gave them a few test runs with my temp guns and asked them how they do things, and kind of slowly it took a little bit for my trust to be there. And I'm not saying you can't use those services, but you should talk to them. You should, like HEB has a whole room dedicated to where they stage their food in a temperature controlled area, versus some other companies that are very large that stage it in a room that's not temp controlled, and you can't tell me that that's safe. And
yeah.
how long did they do that? I don't know. Was it there all day? Did they pick in the morning to save time because they had more picks in the afternoon? There's a lot. But if you go to social media, it is very eye-opening. I have a account I follow called Not So Secret Menu, and let me tell you, I've X'd off some restaurants just by watching the workers in these places showing us, this is how the food's really made. This is what's really going on behind the scenes. It is grotesque.
Ooh, well, and at least at a HEB, by the way, HEB, fantastic retailer,
Yeah.
right? They do an amazing job. And they actually have some of their own food production facilities, right? So they make a lot of the dairy products that they sell themselves. I love HEB. And they have employees, right? So if there's a problem, they can go back to the employee. The employees get training, right? Versus a food delivery service, it's just whoever, right? You don't know who they are, and odds are, even if you have a problem, they're long gone, right? You don't even know. Have they been trained? Do they have any idea? Probably not. I've seen videos, Cori, of, we all have these Ring cameras now, of a lady standing there waiting to deliver at the door some food for somebody, and she's standing there eating the fries out of the bag.
I know but they don't see a problem with it. That's what really blows my mind, is that you confront them and they're like, "How dare you? Are you crazy?" Like I'm the crazy person. I'm the idiot. And
Yeah,
it's
exactly. It's kind of like Lance is saying here. They just assume, right? Food safety goes with this ease and convenience, and that somebody, right? Somebody
yeah.
has thought of this, and odds are they haven't.
No, and that's what's scary, is the general public trust. If they see a video and they see somebody saying, "Hey, make this recipe," they just blindly trust them, and they don't stop to think. Sometimes I don't stop to think. I'll be honest. Like, I've had Omero come in the kitchen and be like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? What am I doing?" And it didn't even dawn on me that what I'm doing is cross-contaminating, or it just sometimes slips your mind. And so to me, I just think it's criminal for companies or influencers to tell their thousands, if not millions of followers, "Hey, here's a recipe that's sure to make your family sick. And if you don't mind if you get diarrhea, if a small child gets it, they could die." And one step further, babies don't have the same immune system as us. They haven't even developed some of the inflammatory responders that they need to fight off infections. Those don't even exist in their body yet. So it's a little ignorant for people to think it's going to help, it's going to help their immune system. We need to make them strong. No, that doesn't apply to at-risk people.
No.
That might apply to you, but that doesn't apply to small children. And guys, diarrhea is not normal. Bloating and gas and stomach cramps is not normal. And so I urge everyone, if you have chronic stomach issues, to really look at your food safety. Look at your fridge, look at how you handle food in your kitchen. Get a thermometer out, check your oven, I mean, there was a time I was getting sick and we found out our oven wasn't meeting temperature. So
you were undercooking your food and you didn't even know it.
Didn't even know it. And it was a couple months I was sick and it was just like, what is going on? And then we started temping the stove, and sure enough, that's what it was.
Yeah, I recently bought on Costco, good old Costco, wireless temperature probes for cooking. And I used it at Thanksgiving for the turkey. And so you stick it in there, excuse me, and it goes through, right? And it's showing you the entire temperature curve on a graph, which, right, techies, we love that. And it's saying, okay, your turkey will be ready in 2 hours and 47 minutes. And then it's giving you the breakdown. It's like, okay, pull it out of the oven. Now let the turkey set, before you, and it's just like, awesome, right? Because the old probes with the wire where you kind of have to plug it in the oven and stuff like that, those never really worked very well. So definitely look at something like that as well. If you're
are those reusable?
Yeah, so they're slick. I mean, so they're self-contained little probes that charge. They're Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. There's a base that you charge them in that hooks to the internet. You go in and you put in a recipe, and then it automatically downloads what you're cooking to the probes. In the probe themselves, there's a tip which gives the internal temperature, and on the outside of the probe, and the probe's about that long, it actually then also gives the ambient temperature in the oven, and so then it gives a delta between those two, so you can compare.
I'm writing all this down. I'm gonna go buy one of these.
I'll get you the link after that. Yeah. So
okay.
this is a completely off the cuff conversation we're having here relative to this, but this is how food safety improves, right? Sharing information and saying, hey, I found this cool little gadget, you should use it too, right? Bam.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I don't know why people think it's funny to make their guests sick. I notice a lot of stuff in social media where people laugh and they think it's a joke, they think it's funny, and I mean, I just don't. And looking at Lance's comment, that's so true. You go to someone's house and you really assume that everyone is observed food safety, unless you're us, of course. And then you're like, who cooked that? You know what? I ask questions, and then my whole family's mad at me and they're like, why do you even come? But there's a few family members that I know don't wash their hands, or they fix their pet's raw meat on the counter and they don't sanitize. And it doesn't matter what you tell this family member, they will never, ever, ever believe you. So what do you think, Bryan, when you have a really stubborn, maybe an older relative, but they're cooking and they're doing something? I mean, that's a really wonderful thing to do for your family, is spend hours and hours and hours cooking, and you made this great meal and now I don't want to eat it because it's not safe. How do you handle that when you know something's not safe?
Well, I mean, part of this, right, is and essentially, right, this is the consumer sphere, right? We're acting as customers of this whole process. There's only so much you can control, right? And it almost parallels what we were talking about with restaurants. So if you find somewhere that has crappy food safety processes, excuse the pun relative to that, you just don't go back there anymore, right? Because you can't go back in the kitchen and start, you need to do it, right? Because it's not going to work. So with the family, right? So the thing is, the way I would approach it is this: it's going to be the same offenders, right? So if
for sure.
If you're going to that family member and they are constantly doing this, well, number one, hopefully they're not the host, because that's where you're going to cause the most damage, is if they're the host, because they're going to be the one cooking the big things, the turkey or the roast or things like this. And what I do in those type of situations is, okay, what did that offending party bring to Lance's point, to that potluck? And I'm not eating those things, right? Because part of this too, right, is how does the logistics of that whole get together work? So you normally in our family, right, we have one person who's hosting. So my sister's hosting Christmas this year, and I do Thanksgiving. And so I do the big stuff. I roast the turkey and things, right, that are very difficult to bring. And then everybody kind of brings different dishes, and everybody will sign up for different things. Oh, I'm bringing the dessert, I'm bringing green bean casserole or what have you. And then we will cook and prepare those things here. and then put them out. Because part of it is everybody is
almost
making,
like you're monitoring them, you mean?
yeah,
Like
kind
you
of.
have them.
I think probably almost too, Cori, it's almost instinctual, right?
Yeah.
It's just built into my hardwire of what's the safest way to do these things. But you also have to think about these things, consciously as well, right? So part of this is think about that supply chain, right? Again, this is where our food safety training comes in. So if your brother, who may not have very good hygiene habits, is making his food at home, he's a bachelor, right? And okay, well, that's minus 10 points. And making that side dish at home, letting it sit on the counter, throws it in the back of the car, drives how far to your house? Hours?
Yeah.
Then it sits on the counter until people eat, right? Okay, next year, try and figure something out for him to bring that's not going to cause damage. Hey, can you bring some bread?
Chips and soda, prepackaged
Exactly.
chips and soda.
Right. Yeah, he's not bringing the sushi, right? And so that's
Oh God. Oh God.
Right.
I don't know. Sometimes I eat before I go because I have a host that's very bad and you can't tell them anything, even though this is what I do for a living. It's kind of funny, but I eat ahead of time and then I kind of like poke at the plate. And if there's a dog, that's always great because you can feed the dog something and then they don't even know you did it.
It's gone. Well, and part of this too, and this is kind of interesting how this conversation is playing out, because I mean, it's a microcosm of what we do professionally, because, okay, there's the supply chain, there's all these different materials that are probably being abused in some way. What are the risks for the different types of products? And then the other side of that is the consumers, right? So you've got, to your point, Cori, you've got babies and little children and toddlers, and grandma and grandpa are coming over and all these type of things, right? So odds are you're hitting that entire gamut of food safety risk.
Yeah. Yeah. And people like us, we're almost doing, and the things you're saying, it sounds like you're making a risk assessment because I heard you take off points. So we're doing a risk assessment. I know in my life, everything I do is almost a risk assessment, but others aren't. And then some are. I have a family member that's pretty much a friend of the family. She's this little old lady, my best friend's grandma, and I don't know how she does it. It's tribal knowledge. And sometimes she knows more about food safety than I do, but she doesn't have a formal education. And it's really interesting to go to her house and learn from her and the amount of knowledge that she has, back in the Great Depression when they had to get real creative cooking. Yeah. But
I think part of it, right, is learning from those sources, which is awesome. But I mean, part of this too, right, is you're not going to build Rome in a day. So maybe, I mean, if you can just teach a family member who's particularly egregious that, okay, use this cutting board for raw stuff and only use this cutting board for fresh things, right? So lettuce or things like this. It's okay, we're going to cut up the raw meat on this board. Okay, great. Now let's clean and sanitize that board. Awesome, good job, right? So if they can learn that, and a lot of times with food safety too, right? It's kind of this, log curve, right? So if you can go in there and you can knock out the biggest risks, that's the biggest return with the minimum amount of family friction, right? It's like,
there you go.
Yeah.
Have your eye on the turkey or the chicken. Have your eye on the ready to eat stuff, and that kind of brings me to another thing about taking advice from strangers. Like we were talking about influencers and social media. Man, social media is a scary, scary place.
Yeah, definitely. And so part of this too, right, is with social media influencers, why are they doing this? Are they doing this to share with you this new cool? No, this is a business, right? They're trying to come up with a new way to sell you something. And what is an entrepreneur, right? An entrepreneur is this go-getter who's out there trying to create this business. And anybody who's been in the food industry knows when you're starting off producing a new food product, it is super hard, right? Your goal is to keep the doors open, have a positive cash flow, and keep this thing going until it can take off, and you can sell your product in HEB or something like this, right? And you hit the big time. And a lot of times in these situations, they are utilizing shared space kitchens. They're renting out at night the spaces that they're making their products in. And this is strictly production. They had, to your point, grandma's recipe for empanadas or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they just taste amazing, but they have no idea of any of these elements associated, because food safety a lot of times, unfortunately, comes after the fact. And I get these calls too where, hey, I started jarring up mom's famous salsa and I want to start selling it. I need some help here. And at this point in time, they're way down the road. And you're just like, oh my goodness, where do you even start? It's like your family members. Okay, what's the acidity? What's your, craziness, right? And they're not thinking about making people sick. They just assume that it's okay.
And most of the time, those clients that come to us, once you tell them what it entails, they either say, never mind, or they say, I'm going to do it anyways, my way. And they really don't believe, especially with the salsa. They're like, I'm not adding acid. No, but the peppers that you're adding are acidic. So you are adding acid. And so then there's that learning gap. But I believe the influencers want clicks. They want followers. They want clicks. They want attention. So, you really in any business need to look at the integrity of that business. Do they even care? And if they make you sick, are they going to make it right? Are they going to disappear and dissolve their LLC? And when you're talking about people on the internet that are a little bit intangible, I would not take any cooking advice from those people. It's horrifying to see sometimes on, I'll call it TikTok. I use like Instagram Reels, and I think they have one on Facebook, but I'll see some stuff that will quite literally make me throw up in my mouth, because I cannot believe anyone would do that. It's unsanitary, it's unhealthy, I guess it's for clicks, and sometimes I just hope it's a joke and it's not real. Like, please tell me that you edited this and this is not really what's going on.
Because it's all about getting attention. And how can I do the craziest, wackiest thing that are going to get people to click on my thing? Hey, everybody, look at me. I'm going to make chicken today. Look at the dancing raw chicken, right? And you're just going, oh my God, what? Right?
I saw a guy, and I'll put it in the comments when we're done, making sous vide in an airplane bathroom.
Oh.
And I mean, the whole thing, he brought in the batteries somehow, he got them charged, he put it in the sink, which was making me gag, because just the thought, you already are in an airplane bathroom. I feel like I can't wash my hands appropriately. I don't feel clean when I come out of an airplane bathroom. So I would never make food. He makes it, it's shrimp, he puts like Parmesan, I don't know what, and then he goes back to his seat and he takes a video of him eating it. And I wanted to throw up. Someone
oh my God,
sent that to me.
Yeah, I've seen videos of people making salmon in their dishwasher, wrapping it up in foil, and then cooking it in their dishwasher.
So they're like steaming it, even with the water. They have it. They turn the water on.
So they take the salmon fillet, they wrap it in foil, and then they stick it in the top rack of the dishwasher, put it on hot, and then run a cycle.
That's disgusting.
Oh my God. What have you just done now to your dishwasher, right? You've made it into a giant bacterial farm. Number one, you eat that salmon, it's going to be
I know all your dishes.
You want to reach to the camera and just go, whack, right? Oh my God. To your point, I saw somebody, preparing food in their motel room and creative ways to use the iron, right, for your clothes. To make grilled cheeses and all this others. And to your point, Cori, you're 100% right. All this BS is just to get clicks. But there are idiots out there who see this and go, oh, I'm going to do that.
And they do it. And they, like, if you look in the comments, man, it makes me very disappointed in humanity usually when I go to the comments, because you see so many people, like, I'll say, guys, just want to let you know I'm a professional, and if you do this, it's a bad idea. And then everyone, go kill yourself. I do this all the time and I'm fine. And And I'm like, and I bet you have diarrhea all the time. And it's just wild. They're like, yes, and F off, nerd. I mean,
Right.
so it's almost like they're okay with it. It's cool to be stupid. I don't know, but taking advice from influencers, bad idea. Tia sent me a video of some girl, and we'll put that in the chat at the end. She had popcorn and she starts drizzling all this stuff on it. And she's like, okay, now it's time to take your cake mix. And she puts the eggs in and mixes it up, drizzles raw cake mix, and then says, oh, you just let it sit out overnight and dry. And when you're done, you eat it. And then there's the end, and she's eating it. And it's like, you don't see anything wrong with this? And then I got into an argument with people in the comments, and yeah, they were all against me, and I'm the idiot. Isn't it hilarious?
Yeah, there's one rule on the internet nowadays, especially, right, is never admit you're wrong, right? If you see somebody, hey, you know, that's a good point, well, I'm going to really take that. No, that never happens. Never, ever, ever happens. And part of this too, right, is we're talking about people who did things like the Tide Pod Challenge, right?
Yes, exactly.
The Duncan's point, right? Right. Oh no, we've got, you know, it's just like, oh, right. If we're looking on that IQ bell curve, right, we're kind of sitting down here on the low end of that.
We're rolling back. Social media is making everybody like roll back down the curve, because if you listen and you absorb it, I'm afraid it rots your brain and it makes you lose critical thinking skills. I don't know.
Oh my goodness, yes. I was thinking about some other things that kind of popped in my head too, relative to the home side of things too. Think about this. Let's say you're eating at your family member's house, and they like exotic pets, and they have a pet iguana or some other crazy pet, a snake or something like this.
Parrot.
We know in the food industry that those things are carriers for salmonella. Oh, look at cute Jub. Oh, look how the cute iguana, right? Oh my goodness.
And they let them walk around everywhere
in the house. And I'm not sure, lizards aren't potty trained from what I know. So what are they leaving all around your house? Oh my goodness. Other thing to worry about, and this is if you have a special situation on this, and Dr. Powell from, Dr. Marshall was talking about this at Eurofins, and allergens, right?
Yeah.
So allergens not only impact the person who has the allergenic reaction to, let's say, soy or something, it impacts the entire family, because now you need to take that into consideration for all the things that people are eating. But if you're going to family members' homes, they don't know that. And if you have a child who has a severe allergic reaction to soy, to your point, Cori, trying to educate on that, to teach those people of, and again, cross-contamination and ingredient labels and all these type of things, good luck.
Yeah, and they get pretty aggressive. I have a food allergy, and people can get real aggressive with me, like, well, it's not going to hurt you, just take a little, or, oh, I've never heard of that. And no, I'm not interested in going to the ER. So I'll offend anybody any day over allergens, but not everyone feels comfortable doing that. So, and also you have to think that some people don't realize the sub ingredients of what they're making might have an allergen in it. And they don't consciously think, oh, like I have sesame seed allergy, I'm using tahini. Tahini's made from sesame seeds. And then I ask them, are there sesame seeds? And they say no, because they believe there's no sesame seeds. But now I'm going to the ER. And, you know, I mean, the consumers really need more education. I just wish consumers were more receptive to learning.
Mm-hmm. And that's the constant challenge, right? It's kind of, there's been creative ways out there that have been, you know, tackle this topic, right? So you see on like local news broadcasts where they bring in the science guy, right, who does a fun experiment with some kids, showing them chemical reactions and what have you, with a giant plume of foam or what have you. But how do we do that in food safety to get that education out to consumers? That's really, really hard, because again, it's assumed, and that no matter what they do, it's always going to be safe. And they're not receptive to those messages. A lot of times, the only thing that you see is local health agencies that put out what you would expect from a government agency, right? Very bland, boring, All right, we'll post a health alert on the board at the retailer to list all the recalls.
Where no one looks. No one
Nobody,
even knows to look.
no one's looking at that. And so we know about these large issues that are going on, and the consumers have no idea, which kind of brings me to the next thing on this topic, which was foods I never, ever, ever eat. And the one that's really popped up for me in 2023 is, what the hell's up with enoki mushrooms? Oh my goodness, right? It's like listeria recall after listeria recall. And from what I've seen on that, it's kind of like Bill Marler, right? He talks about the foods he never eats. And I tell you what, enoki mushrooms is big on my list now.
Are they mostly imported?
A lot of times, yes. When I see the packaging, if they have it in the recall notices, it will be in packages with Chinese writing on the packages.
Yeah, FSVP is not protecting us. That's all I'm going to say. And especially if you're a very small importer, the requirements to get your stuff in is laughable.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, yeah. So if you are buying food on Amazon,
beware.
Where's that food coming from? You have no idea what that supply chain is like, because a lot of times on Amazon, right? This is back to that entrepreneur angle again. These are people who have set up a shop. I can go out today and set up a shop on Amazon and sell stuff. And where did it come from? Where am I getting it from? Just like that knucklehead with DoorDash who's eating the French fries out of the bag on your porch. Same situation, right? You have no idea what you're getting.
And they may not even be in the US. And that's what I'm finding. A lot of clients with Amazon are in a foreign country, which means they really have no tie to us. And do they really care if they make us sick? And the vibe I get a lot of times is they really don't care. And so you really need to look. It'll say sold by and fulfilled by. And if it doesn't say Amazon, I would stay away from it. If it's, a Chinese company, I would stay away from it, because there's just no controls. And most of the Amazon sellers are what is considered a very small importer. And all that is required of a very small importer is written assurances. So as long as someone's willing to sign a document, that's your assurance. And I don't know about you, but that's not good enough for me when you're talking about countries that are known for fraud.
Yeah, some other foods to be really careful with, right? There's these fraud issues that come up with this food. Something I avoid is honey, right? You gotta be really careful when you buy honey, because there's a lot of fraud in the honey industry.
Yes.
And so from a manufacturing perspective, I would never allow companies I work with to buy honey from China, right?
Oh yeah.
So you're going to have contamination with antibiotics, so chloramphenicol, right? They're trying to keep their bees healthy. You don't even know if it's really truly honey. And what the industry has found out recently is that what the fraudsters in China are doing is hiding the supply chain. So they will actually ship the honey out of Vietnam. So they will take their honey, send it to Vietnam, and then sell it from Vietnam. So it looks like Vietnamese honey. And the only reason this got caught, and I think this was John Spink who found this at Michigan State, is because now all of a sudden, here's the production levels of honey in Vietnam. All of a sudden it does this. And it's like, where's this honey being produced? How did you guys increase capacity so quickly? They didn't. So honey, olive oil. Oh my goodness, olive oil, right? Lots of fraud in olive oil. Even at Costco or things like this, I only buy, like, there's a Kirkland brand olive oil that's organic and these type of things, which gives you some additional assurances. Because if you dealt with the organic industry at all and had organic certified products, they are extremely concerned and look very, very closely at the supply chain, because they don't want you buying cheap ingredients and then selling it off as organic. So those supply chains tend to be pretty solid. So I trust those.
Yeah, the cheap when it comes to olive oil is not a good thing. There's certain things you don't want to skim on for the sake of your health, really.
Right. And then there's these things that pop up too, that, to your point earlier, Cori, that people who aren't dialed into this don't pay attention to. So there's this big issue going on right now with children's applesauce and lead. Right? So if and these lead levels, so for example, I think they're over like 400 or 500 times over the legal limit for lead in infant and young children's products. Can cause developmental issues that are going to haunt that child for probably the rest of their life. And the latest rumor that I saw this morning on the internet relative to this was done intentionally.
I haven't seen that, but that's an interesting theory.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if you tested most of these places, you would find that the levels are dangerous. They just don't test. And I see in the comments, normal consumers say, well, why don't they just test every load? Well, because that's a very expensive test. You're talking 6 figures. So that's going to raise the price of that pouch, Mom. So do you really think that that's a feasible solution? And, you know, I have solutions for heavy metals, for sourcing ingredients and process controls and things like that. There's ways to do it, but these manufacturers want to make money. They don't want to be slowed down. They don't want to pay more money for ingredients. They don't want to change their process. And to me, that just points to their food safety culture and how they feel about their consumer.
Right. Well, and what's interesting as well, I'm seeing this trend out in the marketplace as well, is consumers are trying to protect themselves in these highly sensitive groups. I had a conversation with a consumer recently on a home gluten test kit. So they have a machine that they bought, which claims to be able to detect gluten in the food they eat. So they'll pop a sample of the food in, and then the machine says whether it's good or not. I know nothing. So I was trying to learn more about this machine, right? Because we know I hope we won't geek out too much here. But I mean, when you're looking at these type of things, you know, what type of test methodology is it? Lateral flow device? Is it using some type of immunoassay type test? What is it doing to identify this? And then, of course, that food matrix varies widely. So if you're testing a liquid versus a sticky, gooey peanut butter type thing, you're going to get different results. And this consumer had contacted one of my clients and said, hey, I found gluten in your product. And we're like, oh, that's highly unlikely, right? So we went back to the entire supply chain and looked at everything, reviewed all the testing and all the production records and everything else. Everything was perfect. But in this consumer's mind, there was gluten in that product.
Yeah, and that's another risk too. I see a lot of things in social media trying to sell you things like food sensitivity tests and this and that, and it feels predatory in my mind, especially when you're talking about testing kits, because the first thing in my mind was, let me see the validation study, and does that company even know what validation means, or are they just trying to sell something to people that have a food, a serious health condition, and they really want, this solution to help them, and it's not going to help them.
Right.
I would be interested to learn more about that.
Yeah, I'll get you the information on that. And this kind of gets into the whole influencer clickbait type side of things too. And they damage this information chain as well, because if people are overwhelmed with information, they just ignore it. So spend any time on Twitter or any of these type of things, right? The 9 deadly things in your coffee that are killing you. Click here for more information, right? Really? No, they just want to sell you something, right? Being able to sort through that. So if I'm a consumer and I'm just, Joe Schmo, and I don't know what the information that we have as experts, now I'm getting scared. And after a while, I'm just like, okay, well, everything is dangerous. Fine, whatever. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. It's worked so far. I don't get sick that often, so I must be okay, right? And you can kind of see where that attitude your family members have come from, right? Because they're deluged with this stuff all day long, and they just you learn to block it out.
Yeah, I've seen videos where they kind of make fun of that. They have a guy that goes into the store and he picks up the cereal and he's like, no, I can't eat this. And then he goes to the water bottle and he's like, oh, it's got plastic. I can't have this. And then by the time the shopping trip is over, he doesn't really have anything in his basket. So it is. I like everything. And I feel that way sometimes too. And like, Omer was like, stop it. Cause I was like, we can't have the wooden cutting boards because I think they're unsanitary. But then after the PFAS stuff came out, I decided I don't want to use those boards anymore, because studies are showing that just the cutting and the little bit of microplastics is affecting women and their hormones. So I said, no more of those. And he's like, but you made us throw out the wooden ones because you said they were unsanitary. He's like, no, we got to bring the wooden ones back.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
I mean, it's just.
Yeah, those plastic cutting boards used to be everywhere. Right. And yeah, I mean, just the act of taking your knife across those boards creates little channels, and they don't heal, right? Those little channels stay, which again gets back to the importance of baby steps. So if we can just teach our family members, okay, guys, always have at least 2 cutting boards. One cutting board is for raw, and it's only for raw stuff, and the other one is only for cooked stuff. Right? If you can get that in their head, that's a giant step forward. The other one I would say would be hand washing, right?
Oh, yeah.
We can at least teach people, because people understand that, right? They may not be.
Did you see, I think it was Francine or maybe Matthew that posted the video with the guy washing his hands, like just the fingertips, like after every step, or maybe they sent it in a private message. I don't know. I always send the horror videos to the group of people, you know, the kind of the same group of people. But the guy, after every step, he handles eggs, and then he goes to the sink, and he just doesn't even use soap. He just rinses his fingertips, and it's like, ugh. And everybody thinks it's funny. And I don't know. I don't think it's funny.
Yeah, it's, oh my goodness. Yeah, we see it everywhere in not only our space, but everything else, right? There's these giant information wars going on, and you don't necessarily know what's true. And actually, you know, that skepticism may kind of be a good thing, right? We may be, as consumers, maybe we're starting to figure out that trusting in whatever it is, right? Political, food, these type of things, not a good idea, right?
Yeah.
Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's true. You need to go out and do some fact checking, right? You need to find out more information. You need to do some double checking. You need to figure out better ways to figure that out. And just like in our manufacturing facilities, you know, the best way to transfer this information is one-on-one, and explaining the why. Why do we wash our hands, right?
Yeah.
And what is the benefit of that? And it's the same with our family members too. And doing it, to your point, Cori, and we see this in plants too, right? Is you never get your message through by going out to the plant floor and yelling at people, right?
Yeah.
As soon as you walk away, people are like, screw him, right? You jackass, right? He's always a mean old bastard. Go back to your office. And, you know, if we can at least, you know, instill these methodologies and these things at home, we can take the lessons as food safety professionals we learn on how we can properly influence our direct sphere of people on proper processes, use that same psychological methodologies in the plant, right? They're the same skills. And that's kind of the weird thing in what we do, right? Is that it applies. And I say this sometimes too, Cori, is that if you work in food safety and quality assurance, we stick our nose in lots of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's true at home too, right? And we can't, I think that's part of who we are as people, is morally, we just can't turn it off, right? If we're at the restaurant, if we're at the family gathering, if we see something, we're probably going to say something.
Oh, yeah.
And figuring out that diplomatic way is hard.
It really is.
Yeah, I mean, to Wanda's point here, good to see you, Wanda, is they may understanding, but they still don't want to do it, right? And if somebody's stubborn, right, we all have the stubborn family members, like to your point, I've been doing it this way for 25 years and nobody's, you know, right? Sometimes you just can't break through. And some people, the more you try and communicate, the bigger the pushback you're going to get. And so you have to pick your battles sometimes too.
That's true.
Some
it's a
people
complex issue.
Yeah, some people only learn the hard way. Right? It's like, all right. So, all right, I'm going to box you in so that you're the only person that gets sick, right? And I'm not going to say I told you so once it happens, but I told you so.
Yeah,
right?
but they still won't believe you. I have a family member that does it, and I say, I know exactly what happened. It was that raw meat. You didn't wash your hands, and I watched you fix the sandwich, and no. I'm like, okay, well, what do I know?
Here's another food which unfortunately is on my list now too, because there's a big recall going on, right? Is oh my goodness, right? So cantaloupe, we known about cantaloupe for a while, and the issues with cantaloupe, and Doug was talking about this as well. Of you may be doing more damage at the manufacturing level by washing them
Yes.
than not. And now stone fruits, right? We're seeing issues with plums and nectarines and things like this. It's like, oh, but the thing that I avoid, and everybody on the chat should avoid these too, and this is a huge culprit, is all these convenient, and I think this is the point Dylan was making earlier, right? Fast, easy, and convenient generally equals higher risk. So if you're going to the store and you're buying that package of pre-cut cantaloupe in a package and it says special $5 off, meaning it was yesterday's production, right? Yeah. That's a risk, huge risk. Don't do that.
It's a risk even when it's fresh.
Yeah.
I mean, fresh cut produce is high risk stuff, and it doesn't take a lot of work to get a knife and a cutting board and cut it up. I know that that's an unpopular thing to say, and go to Costco or go to Sam's and get a bunch of containers, Pyrex, plastic, whatever you feel comfortable with, and do meal prep. And it's cheaper. It's a lot cheaper. We've got inflation, and it's safer as long as you're handling it properly. And it's better quality too, because it hasn't been moved around on a truck and gone through all these extra steps that it didn't need to go through. I think the convenience stuff is really detrimental. It's not worth it to me.
Convenience always comes at a price. So what price is it?
Yes.
So something else to think about as well, and right, it's kind of, we're probably bumming everybody out for the holidays.
Merry Christmas.
But, right, we're the Grinches here today, right? But really, food safety is all about awareness, and so part of our obligation is to help teach other people who don't know what we know, and figuring out those strategies of how we do that. Right? It's exactly what we're doing in a food plant. And speaking of food plants, this time of year also tends to be risky on the manufacturing side, because think about it. Mm-hmm. If I am a manufacturer who, this is my peak season, right? I'm cranking out fancy brie cheeses or things like this for the holidays, those special foods that people only bring out for special occasions. My production is ramped up like crazy. And this is the worst time to have an increase in production, because it's hard to find workers, it's hard to get overtime. You are stressing your system. The preventive maintenance isn't getting done. Maybe sanitation is being sped up. Companies are cranking, right? They want to get this product out the door. And this, as a result, increases the risk of a food safety event, because that's stressing the system. And so as a food safety professional, taking this information that we're talking about here today and focusing that in on the manufacturing process. And I've said this with my clients, and this time of year, I always kind of drumbeat this is the time of year where we need to be extra careful manufacturing because of what I just talked about.
For sure. Yeah. And if you're one of the people that's been there for years, then it's really your duty to watch over the ones that are less experienced or they're not trained. And management always needs to remember it's your job to train people. So if people aren't doing what they're supposed to do, you need to look at yourself and say, why aren't my employees doing what they're supposed to do?
Exactly. And this is the time of year, make sure that if you have temp workers, right, that's a huge risk, that your temp workers are only involved in manufacturing areas where they're not in contact with food. So, okay, fine. Welcome to the team, temp worker. We've got you sweeping out the warehouse, or we've got you palletizing finished product that is in a nice case, and you're hand stacking the stuff at the end of the line. Never, ever have your temp workers involved with direct food safety contact areas, right? Bad idea.
Yes.
Yeah, there was a video that I saw from an ice cream company that had a recall, and they were doing small novelty things. And they had this video on their website, and obviously they were proud of this video. And the amount of food safety mistakes, it's part of a training I do now, because there's so many food safety mistakes in this video. It's just like, people touching the tops. It's just like, okay,
it's wild. I see what they'll post on their website for everybody to see. It just shows you how ignorant they are. I mean,
right?
Not a good advertisement.
Definitely not. So as we're kind of thinking about all of this, Cori, and definitely we're covering a ton of ground here, which was kind of the purpose, right? Is kind of an overall view of things. What kind of main lessons are you thinking kind of summarize everything that you like people to take away from our talk today?
I mean, don't trust social media. Don't trust the internet would be my number one piece of advice. And if you have a question, don't ask Google, ask an expert, because Google and AI even, they can't do the same risk assessment that we can do. It depends. We need to understand the situation. Don't be afraid to ask. And it's always fun to see these videos and want to make these things, but think there's probably a safe way to do it. Even though the one they're showing you isn't safe, you think about it, what's the safe way to do it? So beware, look out for those family members. Don't be afraid to speak up. It's much better to make somebody, kind of mad at you than be in the bathroom all day sick. It's not good. And even further, it could be worse than just diarrhea. It could be pathogenic and you end up in the hospital. So
that's a very good point. So what's worse, having grandma be a little irritated with you, or going to grandma's funeral in a couple weeks?
Yeah.
Right. You don't need to communicate that in such gloom and doom terms, but that's what we're thinking, right? And that's the burden of what we do in food safety, right? We understand these things and we see them. So communicating that information, and not in a scolding, mean way, but in ways that, help guide these people to protect them, because that's what we're here for. And I think it's kind of the overall theme for our chat today, Cori, which is the information that we have shouldn't just be bottled up in what we do at work, right? We see the direct results of our actions, which is really kind of cool, in our family. And the end results of that and helping to protect them is just as important.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, sometimes we even get phone calls and people will ask us questions and we'll answer them. I don't think they realize what we really do, but yeah, we'll tell them, no, don't do that. You got to take a temperature. And so if you have a question, call somebody. And like I said, call an expert. I'm sure they're happy to help you.
100%. And yeah, don't be afraid to share your knowledge, because everybody on this chat today, you're experts too, right? So the more that we spread this information, the more we share food safety, right? It's not a point of competition. The more we share, the better. So as we kind of close out today here too, Cori, anything coming up that you'd like people to know about?
Just a couple of things. One, on the topic of sharing, in my auditing, I'm finding that a lot of sites don't understand what these schemes want for a mock recall cover sheet. So I've developed one, and it's going to have some guidance for each kind of scheme. It's going to be free, so be on the lookout for that. I'm gonna share that for free. Awesome. And then here pretty soon, be on the lookout. I'm going to be looking for some consultants, because we're getting busy, and I bring it up here because you usually bring a good crowd of good professionals. So I know there's probably a good pool out there. So if you're a consultant and you're interested, solutions@foodsafety.muse, hit us up, and here we go. There we go. There's her email right there. It's always hard to point like this because everything's reversed. So yep, her email's right there. Reach out to Cori. We're always happy to help. So fantastic. Great chat, guys. So with this, thank you everybody for your attention, your input. It's always great to see everybody. And thank you again for investing an hour of your time out of your busy schedules to join us for this chat today. We really, really appreciate it. You are why we do this. And it just makes our day. And I know that it's the same with Cori as well. So with that, and again, right, food safety never rests. So we will be back next week with a new food safety chat at the same time. So 8 a.m. Mountain Time, 10 a.m. Eastern, and we live stream on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. And I will bring another amazing guest like Cori onto the show to have another chat around food safety. So thank you, Cori, for all that you do. You probably don't hear that enough either. So I want to say that to you too. Thanks. I appreciate it. And everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves. And we'll see you back here next week. Thanks, everyone. Bye. Thanks for coming.